Okay, so I removed the protective mat that we had underneath the guitar so that we get rid of any kind of shavings or filings that we had there. And we're pretty much ready to string up the guitar at this point. So I have a set of strings. I like to use Ernie Ball's Slinky. Usually 9s do the job. And we're going to open that up and we're going to start stringing up the guitar, and then we're going to be looking at any kind of neck adjustment if needed, if required, with the truss rod. And obviously we're going to be looking at adjusting the heights of the bridge, saddles, and intonation. So let's get started on that. If any of you don't know how to change strings, I'll go through that with you pretty quickly here. So the pack of strings usually comes with numbered individual bags. The highest gauge represents the thickest string, and it gradually goes down to the smallest gauge. So what I like to do is take the thicker gauge string, unravel it, and with Fender type guitars you have to insert the string through the back of the bridge. So basically over here. So you take it and slide it into the topmost hole, slide it through the other end, and then you string it all the way up to where the posts are, and it should rest nicely inside the nut. If the string is sticking out too much, basically you want the string to stick out about a little more than halfway, and it shouldn't be too deep on the nut because that might give you issues with the frets later on. So what you're going to do is you're going to slide the string inside the post like so, and then you're gonna want to take it, and you really need only a small amount of string. And typically the way I like to measure is I let it go through the first post and extend to the third post, and that's my cutoff spot. I basically cut it off there, and that's plenty of string to be able to string up properly. So what I do is I typically take it, I make a small kink in it, and then I start to wrap. And what you want to do is you want to wrap it going to the inside of your headstock. Let me move this a little bit further down. And you want to wrap over the little piece that you just cut off, and then you want to take the string and start wrapping it under, and that basically locks your string in place, and it'll avoid any kind of tuning issues and slipping strings. You can get little wrapper tools to help you wrap the strings easier or quicker, but for the purpose of this demonstration I'm just going to do it by hand. Okay, and then you'll see that it'll start picking up the slack quite fast. At this point you don't have to tune it. You just have to get it to sit properly, and you're going to go through the entire process as I just did with all the strings. Once that's done, we can start looking at tuning the guitar and then looking to see if we need to make any adjustments. So I'm going to go ahead and install all the strings and then come back and go to the next step. Okay, at this point we're halfway through. I just want to remind you to be very careful when you're cutting wire. You can easily hurt yourself with this. It's very sharp, so you don't want to end up getting some wire in your finger or in your eye. So here's the tool the wrapping tool I was talking to you about earlier. It's a little spindle that slips over the tuning peg and allows you to tune quicker. So you can easily just rotate that, and you can basically wrap the string a lot quicker. What you want to make sure you're doing when you're installing the string like this is you want to make sure you're keeping pressure on the string as it's wrapping around the post. You want it to be as tight as possible. You don't want it to be loose or messed up. You want to be clean, and you want it to be neat. So many times I see people with too many wraps of string around the post, and you don't want that. And especially, it really bothers me when I see people with strings hanging out over the post, as if, you know, I don't know what they want to do exactly, but it seems like pretty messy. You get that in your eye. What do you need that for? So as you can see, everything's pretty loose. Nothing's in tune at this point. So we're going to carry on. We got 2 more strings to install, and the next one's going to be wrapped under the T. There's a string tension T there, and I'm going to just show you how that works and why it's there, for those of you that don't know. So I'm going to pull this through, and this is going to be going under the T. That T is basically in place to keep downward tension on the last 2 strings, and it basically helps avoid the string from popping out, and I think it also helps with the intonation and tuning, any kind of tuning issues that might arise from having the strings too high up off the nut. And again, I just want to stress that I'm not a luthier, so, you know, I'm not a professional in terms of, I don't know all the answers. These are just the things that I've learned over time working on my own guitars. So I just wanted to remind you of that. I mean, I'm sure there'll be people with comments on, you know, how to do things better than what I'm doing here. But I mean, these are basic things that have worked for me. And if you have comments, I'd be happy to hear them. But again, take it with a grain of salt, and you know, if you're not comfortable setting up your own guitars and you think that you can screw something up, you know, by all means take it to an authorized guitar repair shop, and you know, they can help you with most of the situations that you will encounter if it's anything that has to do with electronics, or, you know, necks that are not straight or need to be adjusted, or string height adjustments, all of that. You know, if you're not comfortable, there's no problem with taking it to somebody that is a professional and letting them do that for you. You know, and sometimes in the long run you will avoid bigger problems if you don't know what you're doing. So I just want to make that clear. So here we are. This is the last string, and the thinner strings, obviously you can have more wraps because they take a lot less room on the post, so, you know, you can leave them a little bit longer if you like. And we'll get this one done, and we'll move on to the next section.